I ended up projecting this projection. I was on a road. The maestro was so empty, this road. But there were 2 lanes, one going and another coming back. So it was in this outbound range. Only the funniest thing. I didn't know in which country I was in this projection on this road, and I didn't know either where it is. That I was going where I was just going down that road, following this road, and on these other lanes no one was passing, either those that were coming from. This one that was going was not passing anyone. It looked like it went into the desert, but on a well-organized road. I started to follow the road, walking, but I feel like I am out of my body. And then, in the middle of the road where I was walking, a hole opened up. And I ended up falling into this hole, and when I fell into this hole that opened in the middle of the road, I ended up on another road again. Look at the madness. I stopped again on another road, but at the side of the road like that. Where did I stop? I looked, there was a sign. It was written "Welcome." And there was the name of this country that I won't mention here, and you will understand why I don't want to mention this country's name. But as I tell this story, you will hear. They will understand. Had the name of the country. It was written there on that sign. Welcome, the name of the country, and there. And then I look to recognize that I am in country X because it is a country that I already know here in the world. Physical. This is this. My dear sister, who I call sister, saying. Yes, I had this conversation with him, who told me that maybe. Can one of these trips be to here in Brasilia? Yes, it's her. This is my dear sister. It's all right, thank you very much. So. I read this sign. I quickly took notice that I am in the country of X, that I will not mention the name, and only that on this road where I had stopped, where there was this sign, there were also stripes. But there were people. It looked like a city because there were people on these roads and cars were passing by. Then I observed next to the road. 5 beings had stopped from that first projection that was in Mozambique in 2023. And there wasn't a little past this if they were parked next to. Waiting for me, and they made a sign like calling me to Ultraversary over there. I ended up crossing the road, and the side where they had stopped was stopping on the roadside. But the dear people were passing by. I stayed close to them. They told me, look, we are here to take you to a place. And we just want to demonstrate a cure. I observed them, the way they were dressed. All of them wore the clothes. It looked the same. The clothes looked very similar. They had used a type of headgear. Something appeared. Like a helmet, the one that motorcyclists wear. And their clothes were very comfortable. It looked like macaques in what is called a jumpsuit. Looked like a jumpsuit with some very long boots. It seemed like we were going to enter a jungle. So they were so equipped, and in their hands I couldn't see their fingers because they wore gloves. Very comfortable. And I looked at them. Each person had a backpack. Was carrying 3 backpacks for travelers on his back. It seems like people who are tourists. I will even ask my dear Flavio, can you hear me well? There is seeing a photo that I'm just to give an illustration of a backpack. So they were all with backpacks. These backpacks. It looks like those backpacks that tourists use when they are traveling. And I observed again that next to them, there were more clothes there underneath, looking like my clothes, waiting for me to wear, identical to those clothes they wore. So they had to say this. Then each of them. These 5 beings looked like these backpacks that dear Flavio is showing us. Those travel backpacks were quite full, the way it is here, resembling that inside there were things, or well-prepared things for these trips, and my backpack also was there waiting for me. And both my clothes, boots, helmets, gloves, everything was there. So they told me to also wear those clothes and carry my little mosquito. They gave me clothing and they told me, "Look, the time has come to demonstrate this cure, and you already know this place where you are?" And they started revealing to me that look at this color we are passing to you. It had already been revealed to several people. But most of them tried to spread this to the world, but they were prevented with some kind of groups that did not want it to be there. Published. So they tried to silence them, and they couldn't make it public for all of humanity to know about this cures and of a disease called cancer. So they say that another group was also revealed or helped other people. But were more converted by some tricks saying the money. And it was silenced so as not to reveal these diseases, and these cures ended up not being disclosed anymore to the whole world, but there are other people. Even though you know that, but is afraid to reveal this, given that you already know what can happen to them. So we are putting more trust in it. A little with you, and we will show you this place. All of this, all right, we started to travel. And the place we are going to, it looked like in a very closed forest, and there were many waters. We were already crossing in the waters. Sometimes we in a top. I don't know if it's called that too in Portuguese, a tubes. Then a place where even walking was a bit difficult. Imagine in the forest, and the ground is very wet. Is damp, sometimes we find water, but we pass this everywhere. It was a very isolated place and a very dense forest. So we walked several kilometers that I can say were very dissonant, and we reached this kills. We reached a place that was so closed that we were no longer able to go forward. But they took some things that looked like some type of devices. They started to cut to make a path for us to enter there in that dense forest, and they managed to open the way. We only reached one tree. And there were different branches. But as we call them, there were fruits. Well, this fruit they showed me is different from this fruit that I will show there and I will show here, and I will ask my dear Flavio. Show the first photo, there is a fruit alone. So this fruit is just an illustration, because it is somewhat similar. But I do not say it is. It's the same fruit that we are going to show here. No. They showed me the pole of this fruit. I know it, but it's not this one that I will bring here. It just looks a bit similar. You will understand the way I tell this story, the similarity of this fruit with the fruit that I am what they revealed to me. So I think dear Flavio is contrasting this first photo. Not the first. The other photo that shows a fruit alone like the first. So, this fruit that they showed me? That's it. This fruit is a little similar to this one. Because when we arrived at this tree that had fruits, there were many fruits. But these fruits had spikes. How is this fruit? This fruit here is. I will be there now. In French it is called Mustafa. This fruit that you are seeing now is called Mustafa in French. I think it's called in English. I don't know what an apple is called in Portuguese. I don't know about that. I think that's it that we are showing is very similar. It's similar because of the spikes. So this fruit also. There were many spikes like that one we're seeing here in the photo similar. So, they started telling me. Look at this fruit. You have to be very careful when pulling it. Why is this fruit typical? Their spikes are poisonous. But it's worse than a poisonous snake. So we need to be very careful to take this fruit. You can't touch it on your skin. You can't touch it. That's why, leave it for all of us who were there. We had used some very comfortable gloves to manage to pull the fruit out to manage to remove the fruit, and also caught my attention more. If you see in the second photo, I will also ask my dear Flavio to put another photo where there are two fruits of the same, but there are two. So, if you see the second photo, are you going to see this? To pull these fruits, some types of liquid were falling where it was pulled out, where we were pulling the fruits, so some liquids were dripping. Even that was going to happen, for when we scratched it, a mango, an orange, sometimes ends up falling, tasting some drops of devil. So they told me that we have to be more careful when not only cutting this fruit, so much for this liquid that is coming out here, where we cut the fruit, cannot touch your physical body, and if it touches you, can provoke a sudden release. Means go, causing a suffering of the world, pretend in the physical body. We had to be very careful. Then we started to take. Cutting these fruits they took out. There were Colemans that they carried these beings. And this human school, you will understand why they took them there. Because they explained details to me step by step. The so-and-so for so-and-so, Tim. And the Coleman for those who do not know what Coleman is. I will also ask my dear Flavio to put more photos of Coleman of the types of things that the people when they want to travel, sometimes putting. Either drink to cool. Right, these drinks? No, this photo, my dear Flavio. Another photo that has calm man some types of it's and things looking. When people are about to travel, can bring fish by putting inside. And you can add fish by putting some stones to stay frozen there, or put soft drinks just to stay fresh inside, called Coleman. That's it. So we had this type of devices. They carried this also in their hands. So, it seems like we were well equipped. They had shown all these details. Look at this one. There are looking like bottles that people place and are to go to the beach when it gets very hot. You can put soda bottles there. Either drink, people put stones there and close. This is called Coleman. I don't know what it's called in Portuguese, but it's me. I found it important to bring this to understand what is Coleman, so they had this kind of devices that looked like Coleman in this physical world. I am trying pleasure to compare with things. The things we have here in the physical world. I don't know what kind of device they had. But they opened this choice. So we were waking the fruit, and it directly had to be placed there in the Coleman, and covered because they were doing that. They explained to me that this fruit cannot stay in a dry place, and cannot be exposed to too much air. So he had to stay always in a cooler place. So, it had to be cut, taking great care of that water. Therefore, the spikes did not sting us and had to be cut directly for the coal and to close. So we started to pull these fruits. We put it inside these. We closed. Because they said that these fruits couldn't be passed, they only resist where there is very low temperature. And that's why so much there. Where did we find this tree and those fruits? A line appeared. Water was a very dense forest, but in a very cool place, close to water. So this showed this. This by Coleman, then I don't know what to call this in Portuguese, but I know this word from Coleman, this. So we were already taking the fruits and putting them directly inside these devices that looked like this one we call a coma. I am trying to compare with things we have here in our physical world. So I would take the fruits out. We open like this. We put it in there and soon we will. We closed it because these fruits could not stay in a dry place. It had to stay always in a slightly cool place. Ready. And when we left there in the forest? And it looked like a few minutes passed. We were already at the hospital. I don't know how we got out of there, but they showed that we finished cutting the fruits and soon we were already at the hospital. And inside there were nurses that I took note of well. That we were already in that place that I just mentioned the name, and there were people there. Which are the sick ones, was there, others without hair. Lying down, and then they started to remove the fruit. Now I'm going to ask my dear Flavio to show another photo of the same fruit that I am trying to use. Illustration where there is his liquid. A photo showing the liquids. So we only started to extract the liquids. And we took the skins that have those spikes. And seeds we were conserving next to. Because they explain so much about the seed. Both the skin that has those spikes. We had to go digging and burying. Why? The sick person could not consume. Those seeds are also poisonous. Means almost as fruit. It's poisonous, so we have to be very careful. What we could betray there is just his liquid that we're going to give this photo there if. You see that the fruit had already been cut. So I'm just giving the illustration. I'm not saying it's the same source. Please, it's for me to understand just this fruit. I found it more to illustrate our mind with the things we have here in the physical world. But this fruit is, and they showed me in the country where they are found. So we were already taking the liquids the same way you are seeing in this photo. So we were already extracting the liquids, and we were being careful. If you see this fruit that is cut, there are some seeds. They explained to me that these seeds that are in this fruit could not be consumed or not. Could let the person consume. Because if he consumes it could cause him more harm than healing in both spikes. These peels of everything that had to be gathered with the and with. These seeds dig a place to bury because it's poisonous. What we were attracting there is just that liquid that you can see there. Then they showed me all of this. And inside that place where the sick were, they began to demonstrate the measure. How can we give it to people? So it couldn't be more nor could it be less, but I can't say what the measure is that we were wearing. I can't talk about that here, done. They are just trying to summarize the story in the way that they passed me this information. Everything, but they told me as I could use what we were not using because I was seeing everything then. We extracted the liquid. We kept the peels and everything. We were being very careful not to get stung, and that's why. We had gloves all. This equipment. And we began to give it to people, and when we gave it to people, I noticed one thing. People were feeling unwell. In a few minutes someone appeared wanting to faint. It started to tremble, and then the person would fade away, making it look like the person has left. It went out, and I consulted them now because the person went out. It ended up like this, they say. No, don't worry. With this virus that is inside it, is what is causing all this damage. He consumed this liquid that we commanded inside the physical body. Is this what is making you? It's killing those viruses, and then the person starts feeling bad for a few minutes. But later it will recover. And in fact, it was passing. A few minutes later, the person seemed to come back again. Then it would lift. The person was already half sorry. Then I saw that everything was clear to me, and they explained that look. Have you seen the way to find the fruit? Already know the country and say that it is not the only country in the world? No, but there are few countries in the world where this fruit is found. It's not just any country. No. There are some countries here on our planet where this fruit is found. So one of these countries is where they showed. That's why they, when I fell on that road and soon found the welcome sign. They named this country. Then they tell me here is one of these countries, and here where we are going to show you. But there are other places in the world where this fruit is found. And show me there the way to extract the fruit. A tree. They demonstrated how to pick the fruit. And they showed how to give this fruit to people. Both the measurements that could not be more or less to show all these measurements to me. They also showed what care must be taken with this fruit. So, all of this was summarized here. And I found myself. I was in my body again. And when I was startled in my body, my God, what is this? And soon as I have this habit of walking, I woke up, I started to notice at the time, and besides taking notes, I saw not that I had to record. I recorded some audios. I put it on the pen drive and another called Flash, another called pen drive. I put it in the pen drive to conserve this matter for me. So? What do I mean by that? Means that it does exist. Cures for some diseases, and one of them here I was revealed. I know that I am not the only one, as they told me it had already been revealed to other people, so this experience for me was so good to share with you that I hope. And maybe from now on, you will understand where it's going more and the other experiences I will tell.